Hey fellow tankers, it's Mobius Y here with another video for World of Tanks console. So, update 4.1, Swedish Edition Invasion came out earlier this week, and there's already been a bunch of people covering exactly what changed, as well as going over in detail all of the changes going on. So this video, I didn't really want to go over all that, as there's plenty of other people that have done that, so you've probably seen their videos by now. If not, Jack the Ripper did a really good video. It's about an hour long where he goes over everything in these update notes in detail and explains what they mean and describes exactly what they will change. I'll link that in the description below if you want to go over all of these in detail by watching Jack the Ripper's video. Just click on that link below, or if you'd like to peruse them and read them on your own time, I will also link this particular web page in the description below if you wish to go over these update notes on your own time. I largely just want to get to using the server replay and showing you guys how it works. I've already heard that it is very similar to the spectator mode in training rooms, which is to be expected. So it works very similar to that, but there's some additional things that the replay mode from a random battle will pick up on. Just the replay mode in general will pick up on that being in spectator mode simply does not do. So, as we mentioned, the server replays is a new feature. You'll be able to view your last 5 battles during the same gaming session. Just make sure you don't quit out of the game before you want to check out these replays. You have to do it before you play 6 battles from one that you actually want to watch in a replay. There's also going to be now persistent platoons, where 2-person platoons can move between eligible game modes without disbanding. I don't really know why this was a complained about thing. I guess some people like hopping back and forth from random battles to doing the war stories over and over, but 2 people in a platoon will now be able to jump out of random battles and into things like war stories or I guess the PvE 2-player proving grounds without having to disband the platoon and then remake it. So I just want to go over some of the key highlights in these update notes and go through it as quickly as possible. Just some of the major changes with some of the vehicles as well, so that we can get into investigating how the replay system works and what it'll show you as soon as possible. So some of the improvements that have come out with this update are spotting improvements. Spotted vehicles appear more quickly on screen. Now, if you want a little bit more of a detailed explanation on what this means, I would recommend going and looking at the World of Tanks PC Update 9.16 review on YouTube. It'll explain in better detail what the differences were there, but I believe it's the same thing where if a fast tank breaks out of cover at high speed, they will be spotted immediately when they break out of cover, or almost immediately when they break out of cover, as opposed to not being spotted for about a second or two and gaining quite a bit of distance out of cover before they will actually be visible to other players. So that was a huge problem, where there was at least a second or two of delay most of the time when people are trying to spot other vehicles. This should also help with the huge frame rate lag that happens when somebody spots lots of enemy vehicles at the same time. So that should be improvements in both of those aspects, which will be huge benefit to gameplay overall, which is absolutely fantastic in my personal opinion there. Another one was platoon members will now spawn closer together. This is such a pain in the ass when you're playing a map like Mines and you have an encounter battle, and say you both spawn on the south side of the map and you spawn near the bottom of the hill towards the middle of the map, but your buddy spawns way over on the west side of the map on the little island. That is such a pain in the ass, because now your buddy has to spend extra time, or you have to spend extra time just grouping up, depending on your plan of attack. So a couple of the major vehicle changes, I'm just going to cover these right now. Some changes to the Chinese tanks. The Wheezy 111 Model 14 Tier 9 Tech Tree Heavy Tank got a huge side hull armor buff in its thickest spots. It's now gone from 80mm to 120mm, so it'll make it a boss at side scraping. Remember, this is only its thickest parts in the sides that will get this huge of a buff, but still, it is a significant increase. That's an extra 50% armor on the sides of the Wheezy 111 1.4, and not just the Tier 9 Tech Tree Heavy Tank, but also the 112 Tier 8 Premium Tank got an increase from 80mm side armor to 120. So both of those tanks are going to be really good at side scraping now. The T10, this is kind of more just giddy me little bit better rotation speed on the chassis. I'm looking forward to trying that out. The IS-7 finally gets some love. The hull health is increased by 200 points, and the turret health is increased by 50 points. So the IS-7 overall gets 250 more hit points. So instead of 2150, it should have 2400 hit points now, which is great. It could have used just a little bit more love with the gun. It has a slightly better aim time now, but the increased health is quite nice. Let's just keep scrolling down here. Where did I need to go next? We've got some gun depression buffs on the Panther 88, for example. Increased from 5 to 8 degrees of gun depression, so that's a pretty huge one. But it wasn't just the Panther 88 premium tank, it was also the Panther 2, and I believe the regular Panther also got those gun depression buffs. And even the friggin' Panzer V4, for some reason, because it is just so underpowered, am I right? It needed a gun depression buff for some reason because it's performing so poorly and it's such a bad tank. Yeah, okay, whatever. The mouse got some love with the gun, better shot dispersion and aim time. So they got that as well. Also, gun depression buffs on both the E50 increased from -5 to -8, and the E50M increased from -6 to -8 for maximum gun depression. Let's go further down here. A bit of a gun depression buff for the Leopard prototype. Also, a penetration buff on the E100's 150mm cannon, increased from 235 to 246 average penetration. So that's not huge, but it'll make a bit of a difference. Let's go all the way down. France was the next one I wanted to look at. These ones are huge here. The AMX 50-120 gets some serious much needed love. The max gun elevation is increased from 6 to 11 degrees, so it's easier to point upwards now. And the max gun depression is increased from -6 to -9. So you've got almost double the gun elevation pointing upwards and an extra 50% gun depression pointing downwards. It'll just be much more easier to use the AMX 50-120 now. That was the biggest complaint about that tank for a long time. The AMX 50B also gets a gun depression buff from -8 to -10 degrees. Pretty significant improvement there. The UK, I don't think there was anything major here aside from the FE 4202, which is now a Tier 8 premium tank, getting quite a bit of a top speed buff of 15 kilometers an hour. Now its maximum is 50 kilometers an hour, and the credits factor is increased from 50% to 60%. Japan, there was a couple that I wanted to look at here. The Type 5 and Type 4 Heavy and the OI, or the OI Kaiju, all had some changes to their armor, both buffs and nerfs. We'll go over that in a bit, but more importantly, the Type 5 and the Type 4 Heavy now get these new packages where they have a 150mm gun, which is largely going to be used as a derp gun from people who are using it. They're just going to shoot AG so that they can hit people right in the front and still hit them for loads of damage. The hull armor and the turret armor on the Type 5 Heavy both got a buff frontally. As you can see here, the hull armor actually got a bit of a buff on the sides as well, only the thickest portions. The Type 4 Heavy had a top speed increase, and the Kaiju actually had some armor nerfs. Why it had 150mm of armor both in the front and the back of the turret and the hull, I don't know why, but that has now been nerfed down to 105mm in the back of the hull and the turret, which is much needed, as the thinnest pieces of armor were largely on the side of the hull, and the turret still sports 150mm on the side of the turret as well. So those were actually quite necessary. Looking forward to that. The USA M7 Priest had a much needed reload time nerf. That was disgustingly broken how quickly it could dispatch tanks. The T-32 actually got a bit of a reload time buff on both of its guns. Very interesting there. The Pershing, the M46 Patton, and the M48 Patton all got buffs in their own little way. The Pershing got all sorts of shot dispersion buffs, meaning that it'll have less bloom when moving. The 46 Patton supposedly increased armor on all guns, whatever that means. The 48 Patton, this one looks huge. 177.8mm of armor was normally the value for its frontal turret armor, but now it's 254. That doesn't necessarily mean the entire front of the turret is now 254mm thick. That probably just means the gun shield itself, right around the gun, or as I call it often, the gun mantlet. So it'll probably still have its weak spots on the front of the turret, but that is a definite improvement over what it was previously. M103, some slight view range buffs. T57 Heavy, dispersion nerfs, much needed to make the AMX 50B more competitive. This was kind of like a kick in the nuts for everybody who's been complaining about the E3 for so long now. So yeah, that was kind of that was kind of a pointless thing. And then the last little bit down here at the bottom are just bug fixes to the game in general, as well as a couple tanks and some of the maps. So that's basically the highlights that I wanted to go over, and thankfully it only took the 10 minutes that I was hoping it would take. So we are going to jump right into the replay system right now and have go over a detailed analysis with live commentary of how the replay system works and how you can use it, as I have said in previous videos, to help better yourself and help get better at the game on your own. Okay, so here we are in my garage. In order to access the replay function of one of the last 5 games that you just played, you need to go over to your log and view the detailed battle report. So in order to do that, you just open it up like you would when you want to check the post-game stats. Now this particular game here was one that I just played. There was nothing special about it, absolutely not. But it was... this is all being done and recorded the Thursday night before I made this video public. So everything that we see, all the little gimmicks and features that we will see in the replay system will still be relevant today. So let's load this up. It's got to download the replay first, and you can press the start button, or in this case, I guess it would be the menu button, to find the replay help screen. You can also press up on the D-pad to show playback control. So let's fire this up. Naturally, it goes through the whole map loading process as usual. And for some reason, it says that I'm spawning right in the middle. I guess that's because the camera is not attached directly to a tank when you first load in the replay. So while this is loading, I'd just like to say my name is Mobius. If you have not subscribed to my channel and you want to see World of Tanks content on a weekly basis, I try to upload every Friday. Feel free to subscribe to my channel and click that notifications icon so that you can be alerted whenever I put up a new video. Anyways, so now that we are done loading, so as soon as you jump in, it looks like the game's in progress already. So the camera is attached to my tank. If we open up the menu here, let's go to replay help, playback control, current time, playback speed, duration, pause play, use up on the D-pad to activate playback control, and left and right on the D-pad for navigation. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that right now. So just like the media player, if you're on Xbox, it's pretty much just like using the media player or YouTube when you're watching one of these replays. So when you start off, a lot of the controls are just like in the spectator mode. When you are in spectator mode in training rooms, you use the triggers to move the camera between players. You can even go to the other team. As you can see here, I highlighted a couple tanks on the enemy team there. This is a Pershing on the other team. That's a Borsig on my team. T-54 on the other team. You can jump between all the players at any given time. So that's a cool thing to do. Also, when you're jumping between the players, between your team and the enemy team, there are reports on the forums that I have not personally confirmed that depending on which team you are viewing, you can actually hear the game chatter that was going on at that time. So the replay supposedly not only records what goes on gameplay-wise, but it also will save in-game chatter that goes on with people who are not using party chat. Whether or not that's true, I don't really know. We might hear it in this replay. I didn't hear any on my team whatsoever during this game, but there might be some on the enemy team. Who knows? As you saw there, I hit the Y button to use that next camera function. I'm not sure what the button is on PS4. I think it's triangle. You can also press the B button to turn the HUD completely off. This can set you up for some really cool looking screenshots. For example, let's get an angle of the Oho and the Fatherland right here. There you go. There's a small bit for a screenshot. Or you could go into free cam and do it that way. That works too. So while you are... let's turn the HUD back on. Oops. While you're in free cam, a lot of the controls, as I said, are just like spectator mode. You use the left and right triggers to ascend and descend the camera. And you still use the up on the D-pad to open up your playback control if you want to resume the game or change the speed of the replay or pause or fast forward, whatever. And you can still press the B button to turn off the HUD completely while you are in free cam mode. couple other things that you can do in free cam mode. If you click the left stick, it disables something called inertia. So now you can see that the camera just flies around at a set pace depending on how far I push the stick. And it does not do the kind of floaty business that normally happens. Like when I pull the triggers, it just ascends and descends at a set pace. It doesn't take a minute to get up to speed or anything like that. You could click the left stick again to turn an inertia back on, and as you can see, it's a little stickier. The camera movements are a little stickier. It will start off a little slow and gradually speed up, and it only takes about a second or so going in a certain direction for it to do that. But if you click the left stick, that controls the camera's inertia. So if you want to just fly around at a set speed without it changing on you willy-nilly, click the left stick. What the right stick does is it will hold your altitude so that when you are pointing down and pressing forward, instead of the camera going down into the ground, it will float around like this as though you are in artillery view. Something super handy to have. As I said, click the right stick in order to level this off so that the camera stays at the same elevation, and the only way the camera will actually raise or lower itself on the map is if you pull in the left or right triggers to ascend or descend the camera. Clicking the right stick again, you can see that I am now flying into the ground as I hold the stick forward. So there's that going on as well. So while you're in free cam, you can be flying around, and especially if you're looking at a tank, you can hit the X button and you will be set into follow mode. This will have it so that your camera, as it says, follows a tank around. You can still look around, see what's going on, and just kind of get an idea of what's going on around that particular tank. And it's just like in free cam, so you can see all the tanks on the field at the same time in this kind of view mode. If you press X again, it'll take follow mode off. It'll detach the camera, and you can fly around at will. As I said, you just got to target a tank with it, press the X button, which I think is square on PS4. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't remember the button layout on PlayStation controllers anymore. In order to attach or detach the camera from a tank, just point the camera at a tank, press the X button to activate follow mode, press X button again to go back into free camera. So from free camera, if you hit the Y button, that gives you the next camera again. This just gives you a stationary camera where you can see what's going on at a certain point. For example, this battle here with the enemy T-57 and T-69 on this point here getting shot up by lots of the green team. The triggers now turn into zoom modes. So holding the right trigger zooms in, holding the left trigger now zooms out. And you cannot move the camera with the left stick anymore. You can still look around with the right stick and just from a specific point on the map, keep an eye on what's going on all around you. Of course, as usual, to go to the next camera, which goes back to following the specific tanks, you hit the Y button once again, or the triangle button on the PlayStation 4. And of course, once you're in the fixed camera position, again, you can press the B button in order to turn the HUD off. So you can literally see everything that's going on with all these different camera modes. When you are attached to a specific tank, I think you can only see what they can see. Quite possibly here. You can, as you can see there, the 6th sense and detected icons go off depending on if the tank you are watching is or is not detected. You basically see all that going on. You can see their HP, you can see their module damage, you can see how much ammo they have, what kind of equipment and consumables they have on, so on and so forth. I think the only thing you can't really do in the follow cam mode is go into first person. I don't think that's a thing. The only way to get replays in first person is be like me, get a capture card and record the game as it happens, more or less. So we're just going to watch this OHO for a second here. There are actually 3 tanks over here. You can see me in the 110 on the other team there, just putting a shot into him. And now he can see the VK4502 Alpha on my team because the VK4502 Alpha just got spotted. So when you are in the tank follow cam, when your camera is attached directly to a tank and you're following that tank around with your camera, as I mentioned, you will only see what they saw. So tanks on their enemy team, for example, the green team in this case, this Carnarvon could only see the green enemy's that are being spotted by his teammates. So that's all that we can see in this instance. But if we switch to free cam mode, suddenly more tanks light up. We can see everything at any time. That Chieftain T95 popped up. This TD over here, the Ferdinand popped up on invisibility. The T30 showed up as well. So everything can be witnessed all at one time when you are either in free cam or in fixed cam mode. You can see where everybody is at any given time and see what was going on all across the board. As I said, when you're in follow cam like this one, that's the only time that you are limited to what that particular player saw in the game as you are watching them. So I think that more or less covers everything aside from these events going on here. Not sure what this does. Oops. Did not really mean to do that. What did I just do? I think I restarted it. Okay, so that's what that does. This button in the far left over here restarts the replay. Right next to it is where you change your speed. You press up or down on the D-pad to change it. Let's see, fastest is 3 times normal speed, and slowest is 0.1, so 1/10 normal speed. You can also go half speed, 2 times speed, and 3 times speed are when you speed up the gameplay. So in order to hide the playback control, again, you just press down on the D-pad. You can see all these options in the lower left there. This button here backs the replay up again, it looks like. We'll just wait for it to load once more, and then I will simply open it. Okay, it backs it up a set amount of time. I'm going to slow this down to normal speed. And at 55 seconds, let's hit this forward button. Okay, so it skips forward or backwards 30 seconds from the looks of things. So it should skip back to about 55, 57 seconds by pressing the back button there. Yeah, exactly. So that's what these two buttons to the left and right of the pause and play button do. So if you want to just skip ahead 30 seconds, that's what you want to do. Right now, I seem to be... Okay, so I seem to have discovered a certain... Okay, I'm going into tank view now. This is interesting. I don't know what the heck is going on right now. I'm trying to find a tank to follow or something. Okay, very interesting. Wargaming, I think I've just found a bug with the replay system because my camera is now stuck underneath the map and I can't seem to do anything. I'm hitting the Y button to change camera. I'm pressing left and right triggers to look at different people. Holding the left trigger puts me in what looks like sniper view, just without an aiming reticule and a barrel sticking out there. And I can't hit the X button to go into follow mode on somebody. Let's go back into playback control, skip ahead 30 seconds, nothing happened. If we skip back and see if this changes things. Okay, there we go. So that seemed to correct it. Okay, so if you ever encounter the bug that we just experienced, just try and skip back 30 seconds in the replay by hitting this button here on the left of the pause play button, or just restart the whole replay, which is this button on the far left of the playback control section. So that's a look at the replay system, folks. This is a huge thing. I think this will be great for going back and looking at replays, especially for tournaments and things like that. But you can also go back and look at replays if you are curious of things like, you know, where did this guy shoot me, for example. I think that'll be fantastic. This will be a fantastic thing for people like me, like YouTubers, to use as well. I'm really looking forward to making use of this for all sorts of video purposes. Being able to make non-game related things, you're able to go into a kind of director cam sort of mode and just make interesting things like a console version of Light Tractor Journey, for example. Which, by the way, if none of you have seen that video, it's Lol Tractor Journey and Lol Tractor Journey 2 are probably the two best World of Tanks videos ever made. Go watch them on YouTube now if you haven't already. Anyways, I think that'll pretty much wrap it up. This has been Mobius Y for World of Tanks console, taking a look at the replay system as well as highlighting some of the key points and changes in Update 4.1. Hope you enjoyed this video, found it informational and helpful. Leave a like or a comment below saying that you enjoyed it. It really helps me out. And as I said previously, if you have not subscribed to my channel and you like seeing weekly World of Tanks content, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I will not be sad if you don't, but I will appreciate it if you do. As I said, this has been Mobius Y. Thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you on the battlefield or in the next video. As always, happy tanking.
Same thing. Shot dispersion during rotation. Not enough. Not enough. Don't even bother with that shit. What is the point? Like, nerf it or don't. Like, that is not... What the fuck is that going to do? Oh yeah, the TD that moves very slowly, arguably slowly enough at most times when during turning, that it doesn't even cause full bloom, and that spends most of its time sat down corridors. Ah yes, that's going to make the difference. That's going to stop. Now, I know we can all listen to Max Chaos and the other people guys now. We can all say, yeah, we just need to flank it now. That's all we need to do. We can do it now. It's got that extra bit of gun bloom. So that point where it's facing it, when it's next to a wall with rocks around it and 400 meters of ground to cover, it's now your fault if you cannot get across that ground past the thing that has so much stupidly large amounts of DPM and pen that it will just kill you. It's now your fault, okay? Because of this change. This change, it's balanced. It's balanced now. All your fault if you can't do it.